Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about the Iowa polls and what they mean. A whole lot of questions have come in about this, and it makes sense because pretty much every news outlet is running with a different angle on, on the results of the polling. Now, this polling is of likely Iowa caucus goers for the Republican Party. That's who was polled. Some of the reporting headlines like Trump has a commanding lead. Other headlines, an opening for his rivals. It goes back and forth, right? We've talked about it before. Polling this early on is really only useful for two things. One, determining who the primary candidate that wins might be, who the nominee will eventually be. It can kind of be used for that. And the other is to measure enthusiasm surrounding candidates. And there's information here about all of that. Okay, so out of those people polled, 42% said that Trump was their first choice. They would prefer Trump. 42% when you have this many candidates, that's enough to win. So it still looks like Trump has a commanding lead. That's where that headline comes from. But he doesn't have a majority anymore. So that's an opening for his rivals, right? That's where it comes from. The more interesting part is the part that isn't really getting covered. The stuff that can be used to gauge enthusiasm for the candidate, for Trump. Because another question was asked during this polling. Should Trump remain the leader of the Republican Party? 41% said he should. 57% indicated they wanted somebody else. That 57% is divided with 26% saying Trump was a good president, but it's time to move on, and 31% saying that they wanted somebody with a better approach and behavior. This is really, really bad news for Trump. This is bad news. It's also bad news for the Republican Party. This does not show a lot of enthusiasm for Trump. 57% would rather somebody else be leading the party. The reason it's bad news for the Republican Party is because, based on the polling of who people are going to vote for, Trump's likely going to be the nominee at this point. So they will have a nominee without a lot of enthusiasm. That may not lead to great turnout. As weird as this sounds, there are a lot of people on the Democratic side of the aisle who are like, I'm not really that fond of Biden. Apparently, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party who are in the same boat. They're looking at the candidates. They don't like Trump, but they don't really have a lot of enthusiasm for the other ones. Which means Trump very well may be the nominee, and then there's not a lot of enthusiasm. The Republican Party, they need to capture everybody that's a Republican, and they need independents to win. If the base of the Republican Party, those people who are likely caucus goers, if they are not enthusiastic about the candidate, you can bet that the independents, the right-leaning independents, they're not going to be that enthusiastic about him either. It's not necessarily bad news for Trump in a way, because he still is leading, but his numbers are collapsing. It's bad news for certain for the Republican Party, because if his numbers stay high enough to float him through the primary and get him the nomination, the enthusiasm is not going to be there to win. That's the part that I don't think a lot of people want to say. And that's why you're getting headlines that are focusing just on the polling, just on just on the popularity contest aspect of it. Who do you want to be first? Yeah, Trump has a commanding lead. But that doesn't give you long-term insight. The enthusiasm does. And that's the important part. That's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. That's why a lot of the coverage is, it's not inaccurate. It's just, it feels like something's missing. That's the part that's missing. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.